Hi, friends. I had a thought, and it was important. I had to share it with you. Wouldn't you say it's the case that irregular is less regular than unregular? What's another word that has ear in front of it? Resistible, irresistible, irreverent. They all start with R's, right? But that's not the regular way to do things. The regular way to do things is to put an un in front of it. Hi, Ron Allen Sloan. You're first again. Irrigate is not the opposite of gating, okay? It is not the case that one negates and then one, no, I don't want to negate anymore. I want to irrigate. Irreverent, irresponsible, irregular, The thing is, I guess with R's, it is regular to have ear in front of it instead of un. So I guess I was lying. I guess my title's a lie now. All of a sudden. All right, I won't tell you that anymore, Rain. I'll try to control myself better. I'm glad you love these live streams. For these live streams love you too. And if you love these live streams, then surely say, I do. It's a famous old poem about these live streams. Iridescent. Iridescent's another one. Is iridescent not redescent? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think redescent's a word. But what was the thing I was thinking was a strange word the other day? I don't remember now. It was pretty special, though. For the two of you who are here 2 minutes and 22 seconds into the stream, congratulations. You're the two most important people. Everybody else is less important because they're not here. You're welcome. It's important because I think they began asking that on your tax forms now. Are you the most important person? If you check yes, then you get an earned income credit of $46,000. But if you check no, then you don't. So it's a good idea to check yes on that one. Really saves you a lot in taxes. I don't really have a whole lot of topics that are driving this stream at the moment. I was working on this little music video thing that I was playing around with earlier. I got done with that. I'm not sure I'm very happy with it, really, but it's okay, I guess. And then I said, okay, well, I'm done playing around with that, so why don't I live stream now? Because I'm not sleepy yet. Why did I think C.S. Joseph is the smartest person earlier? I said, well, if you're going to answer that question, the answer would be because he makes more money than me on typology and is one of the least knowledgeable people, least correct people about typology I've ever encountered. So that requires some degree of intelligence, I guess, or some form of intelligence. I mean, what's smarter? Being the most correct and making the least money, or being the least correct and making the most money? It depends who you ask, Depends what you consider smart, I guess. I mean, you could easily argue I'm the dumbest person in the world because I'm the most correct, have the most legitimacy in terms of typing, but I don't make that much money off of it. Have you ever experienced ESFP superego? Well, I mean, Ron, the problem with that question is I have no idea what it would be like to experience ESFP superego. Certainly, I can see some of my mistakes in life as consistent with the kind of mistakes ESFPs make. But that doesn't mean I'm in my ESFP superego or anything, right? Like when I make mistakes, it's typically because I'm in some fashion telling others how they should perceive me, or at least that's how it's read by others, is that I'm telling them how they should perceive me. I'm trying to say, look, this is the challenge I have is I need to tell you the truth about this, and it's going to sound self-aggrandizing. That pisses off a lot of people. But, you know, functionally, you might say, well, I come across like an ESFP when I'm witlessly self-aggrandizing. But the thing is, I'm not really exactly ever. I mean, it's always witless when I do it in some sense because I prefer to have better FE. But on the other hand, it's also a bit of a burden I have to carry in explaining things because I have to make the point that this is exclusively correct. And that does mean that I am exclusively correct where people disagree with me. Otherwise, I'm just trying to dodge the real claim I have to make, you know? ESFP and INFP compatibility, I would say very poor, probably, because the Dom polar thing makes ESFP, I guess, is they're INFP supervisors. Supervisorial relationships don't typically work well in terms of at least romantic relationships. Work relationships can be very good if it's supervisorial, if the supervisor is in charge. How would you distinguish FE fourth from polar when asking typing sessions whether someone says things and are told by others they are being rude? I wouldn't make that distinction on that question. So, in other words, if I'm looking for FE polar, I'm looking for somebody who's not going to be displaying self-deprecation regarding their own lack of FE or conscious awareness of fear or inadequacy of it, but rather a generalized explicit devaluing of it and a very difficult to recognize actual absolute value of it, because when they try to be a subject about the thing, it's going to express a counter value. How would one find SE polar? I don't type for SE very much. The thing about my typing approach is because things are on one side of the stack or the other. You know, if in other words, you have only one action function on your front stack. It's either extroverted intuition or extroverted sensing. Everybody has one of those two action functions and not both. So I'm much better at determining, for example, whether somebody is NI or SI than whether they're SE or NE. So once I've determined they're definitely an NI type and not an SI type, and that's a pretty clear test result, then I can conclude for sure that they're NISE or SENI and not NESI. So I don't really need to have a direct test for SE. I think the best test that I can think of, that I have thought of for testing SE polar, would be something like this. You give somebody a list of small tasks to complete without any deadline and see how long it takes them to complete it. Small, pointless little tasks like you just have to do this, and I'll pay you $100 when you're done. SE Down will probably do it right there. I'll do it right then. I'll just get it done right then. The lower your SE, the worse your SE is, the more you'll say, okay, cool, I'll do that later. And then it weighs on you and weighs on you and weighs on you, you know? But that's a tricky test to try to administer, obviously. Well, I mean, Oliver Linehan, you've got 5th slot SC, so that makes sense. Right. If you pay $3, you might not ever do it. If you pay $100, you do it right then for sure. I mean, that's like a sensible approach to the thing. So you have a healthy relationship with extroverted sensing when it's in the 5th slot. Just like my daughter has a healthy relationship with introverted sensing in the 5th slot. And you can see the difference between her relationship with introverted sensing and mine in the way that she was talking earlier today about how she keeps track of all the animes she watches and adds them to and ranks them and adds them, scores them and stuff, and just generally archives her media consumption experience in that fashion way more than I do. She has lists on her phone and stuff. What's the best site or test to find your Enneagram? The best test for your Enneagram is the one I gave Delilah this afternoon on the live stream, which is you simply ask the questions as they are. You go, okay, when you need to reassure yourself that you've got nothing to be ashamed of, that you shouldn't be you don't have to be ashamed of yourself, that you're an adequate person in some sense. Is it because you understand yourself to be helpful? Is it because you understand yourself to be high achieving, or is it because you understand yourself to be a rebel and they're wrong about their social mores anyway? That's one of the questions. The second one is, what do you do when there's something you fear, something you're dreading that's coming up in the future, for example? Do you play the day away, stick your head in the sand, fiddle while Rome burns? Or do you run back to your nest and cuddle up in front of the TV with ice cream and other comforty things? Or do you do research on the thing until you understand it well enough that you're not scared of it anymore? That's the second question. So you give an answer, to the second question. And then the third question is, what do you do when someone comes at you with beef in their heart? Do you beef back? The fuck, motherfucker? As if beefing back. Or do you appease, like, okay, all right, just chill out. Here, you can have some more pie. Or do you say, hey, you're wrong about, okay, you're yelling too much. I'm done. I'm walking away. Which one do you do? Okay, so with the first question I asked, if the answer is help, you're a 2 in your tri-type. If the answer is achieve, it's a 3. If the answer is rebel, it's a 4. You get one of those 3, okay? You get either 2, 3, or 4 for help, achieve, rebel. The second question I asked, you get either a 5, a 6, or a 7. If you answered play while fiddle while Rome burns, bury your head in the sand and play, and this deadline's not coming, then you're a 7. If you go back to your nest and build up your defenses, because you can't really expect to know very well what the threat of the thing you fear is, then you're a 6. And if you research a bunch and try to understand it so you're not afraid of it anymore, then you're a 5. Now, each of these things represents either confront, withdraw, or avoid. In the fear category, 5 is confront. That's research and understand better. 6 is withdraw. And 7 is avoid. For the first one, 2, 3, 4, confront is high achieving. Withdraw is helping, and avoid is rebelling. So 2 is withdraw, 3 is confront, and 4 is avoid. And then for the last question, you get an 8, a 9, or a 1. If you meet beef with beef, you're an 8. If you meet beef with appeasement, you're a 9. And if you meet beef with a little bit of engagement, then disengagement, you're a 1. So there's one there is 8 is confront, 9 is avoid, and 1 is withdraw. So like for me, My tri-type is 784. That means I'm avoid, confront, avoid. I avoid fear, confront beef, and avoid shame. I'm not scared of anything because I'm too busy playing. Is there an effective way to distinguish between INFJ and ISFP? Sure. There's a couple of different things that help make it pretty clear. First of all, FE tool is very different than FE fifth. FE tool, I mean, okay, so remembering that there are basically 3.5, maybe 4 ways of asking questions or testing things. You can test a skills thing. So you can distinguish between them by testing TE skills, okay? Polar TE often will be very unsuccessful at breaking something into 6 steps. Whereas 4-slot TE is going to be more successful at it. Is it a clear-cut, absolute polar test? Not exactly, but you get a sense of how people think about TE by how they approach those questions. I really liked the question I asked today that I had not asked before, which was, if I give you the 3rd step, which is take the lid off of the trash can you break raking leaves into 6 steps? If I give you the 3rd step of take the lid off the trash can. Now, the thing is, as a 6-slot TE person, I go, okay, well, number 1, get the trash can. Number 2, bring it over to the leaves. Number 3, take the lid off the trash can. Number 4, rake the leaves. Number 5, put the leaves in the trash can. Number 6, return the trash can to its original location with the lid on it, right? Because I'm trying to place the thing of take the lid off the trash can in the total course of events. I'm thinking, okay, well, where does that belong? If I have to be 3rd, well, then the first 2 steps have to be very small steps, right? Because I have to get the trash can, bring it over the leaves. I have to do 2 things that get summed up in 1 step at the end because I've been compelled to take the trash can lid off as the 3rd step, even though it doesn't belong there, right? If you see the video from today or yesterday or whenever it was with that Swedish guy, he really, it's like he didn't think about it that way at all. If you see a video the other day with some buddy named Joshua, I asked him to do the 6-step things, and he said, well, the first step is I need to know a bunch of stuff about cleaning my room, like what needs to be cleaned, blah, blah, blah. And then, I'm not really good at breaking things into steps, though. He didn't even get past 1 step. I mean, it's really funny how it's like, geez, you think about this weird. So there's that test. The TE test is ISFP is going to be much more effective at a TE test, and they're going to get the concept because it's front stack. They might go, okay, let me see 6 steps, and do a little bit of sort of like heavy lifting TE, but it'll be obviously TE rather than whatever that thing that INFJs do. Here's another way to test between ISFP and INFJ is the other polar. So ISFPs are notably less competent with the extroverted intuition than our INFJs. The INFJ, like if you note, and you can totally the Swedish guy, I think it was again, he was very revelatory about how extroverted intuition works in an introverted intuitor. When he's like, I said, okay, well, how many uses can you think of for a lighter? His way of diverging from the NI, because he knows I'm looking for extroverted intuition, is arson. It's still using a lighter in the same way. You're lighting something on fire with it, right? It's not really a truly divergent answer. but he's intuitive enough that he understands what I'm looking for with extroverted intuition. And so he makes his answer divergent by taking the NI whole and adding a twist on top of it. And as I indicated in the video in the typing session, the first things I thought of was poke somebody's eye out with it and use it to prop up a table leg. Because I sort of immediately reject the obvious answer to anything just all the time as, well, that's too obvious, or that's boring, or something. So Oliver Linehan says he got either 295 or 296. Well, Ron Alanslon, based on your behavior here in the chat, I would think 9 would be consistent with your behavior here, because every time I get mad at something or like tell you like, yeah, you retract that comment, which seems very 9-ish, but I don't really claim to be any kind of super Enneagram expert or anything. I don't talk about it a whole lot. I don't think there's much to it. I think that test I just said, which is basically just explain Enneagram to people and ask them which one they are. Self-reporting seems to be pretty reliable with Enneagram. It doesn't really lend itself to clearly like one's better than the other. You know, being mad and being like, okay, I don't really care that much. Here, have the thing. And being like, okay, you know what? I'm done with you. I'm walking away. Those things are all kind of equal, you know? Beef with beef, beef with pudding. Beef means I'm going to give you half a chance and I'm done. You're wasting my time. So those three options, I mean, maybe the last of them sounds the most sensible, but because it's an emotional response to something on some level, I guess people feel a lot more comfortable with doing accurate self-assessment with Enneagram. Sure, AENT. I don't know how to say that letter, AE combo letter. I, or is it like some Greek thing, like alpha epsilon, or I don't know what that letter is. Combo AE. Another difference between INFJ and ISFP is, of course, ISFPs and FI Dom, and INFJs really countervalue FI quite a bit when you really get into their truth. If you can get them to voice it, they won't lie to you, but they'll defer answering. Like I asked the Swedish guy, so what type do you think I think you are now based on the answers? And his response to that was so textbook INFJ. Here's why INFJs want me to type them. Because INFJs are in a conundrum or a bit of a pickle. Number one, real INFJs are actually INFJs. Number two, anytime they tell people that in any sort of public forum, they know they're going to face heat that says, you're not an INFJ. And they also know from experience that that's a very difficult argument to win. Everybody's got different definitions. Everybody's They want something that establishes with clear legitimacy their claim, so that if they are asked what type they are, and they do say they're INFJ, and somebody goes, you're not INFJ, and they go, well, why don't you watch the typing session first that I did, in which Eric concluded I was INFJ, and you can then come back and explain why you interpret my answers to those questions differently, if you'd like. But of course, the people who just sort of knee-jerk trolley-ish or provokey-ish just go, you're not a man. Those people, they're not going to want to watch anything and actually do any research. They don't care. So that's why INFJs like me to type them, because then they can say thereafter, I'm an INFJ. And they go, well, why do you think you're an INFJ? They say, here. And they just drop a YouTube link, That's why I think. It allows them to win on TI grounds without having to generate the TI themselves. It's It allows them to get NI closure for themselves if they're actually uncertain about it. I think most of the INFJs who say they're uncertain coming in are actually pretty confident they're INFJs, but want to make sure that that they don't poison the well, so to speak. Do things to influence me. Of course, I'm not really influenceable like that, but that's, it's one of the things I've noted is consistently in INFJ behavior. It's this third slot valuing TI with NI Dom that makes them really go through the motions of, I guess, double blindiness. Because they're anticipating, I think, possible critiques. Like the ones that are FE critiques that aren't real critiques. Things like, well, you just knew how to answer the questions and you wanted to be that. That's how come you answered them like that. That's not a real critique, right? As a matter of fact, if somebody is really capable of understanding what each one of the questions is intended to determine and is capable of gaming it accordingly, chances are they're highly intuitive, because I'm highly intuitive, and the questions I'm asking and why I'm asking them and what I'm deriving from your answers, whether it's the actual answer itself, whether it's how you answer, whether it's how quickly you answer, it's like those things are things people don't really know, because they don't normally talk about all the possible frames or angles of questioning that I use explicitly. And so you'd have to be super intuitive, which means you probably are an INFJ. ISFPs like to bully? I've not encountered that. I've never encountered that at all, Broccoli Todd. I've never. I think ISFPs are typically neither bullied nor bullies, but if there were going to be one, it would probably be slightly bullied until they draw a clear boundary. The thing is, ISFPs are ferocious if you cross a boundary that's important to them. But if you don't, they seem or appear timid. Don't mistake that for weakness, though, because you cross a boundary of theirs, they're scary FI. EXTJs and ESXPs are the ones who bully. ENTPs bullies too. Some. I think we're less likely to bully than ESFPs, ESTPs. ENTJs might bully some. I don't think ESTJs are really likely to bully. Well, I one time got into an argument with Taylor's girlfriend, who's an ISFP, about Taylor's circumstances, and she really went FI freak out on me. Even though I was just trying to say, look, I think this is well advised and this is ill advised. Despite the fact that there's these various risk factors and such, I think if you look, it doesn't matter how rational I was trying to be. She didn't like the idea, and all she heard was the large numbers the prosecutor was throwing out as an overcharging leverage to try to get him to plead to something that he shouldn't have pled to. So it's like she didn't want to hear that. She just heard these big numbers. If he doesn't plead, he could get and there was no even fighting that battle. She was so ferocious, like a mother bear defending her cubs or something, Which type has the most breakup or exes? Your guess would be INFJ. I mean, the answer is probably ESFP or ENFP, because they're both extroverted and driven by their tool function feelings, which means they can be swept up into passions quite a bit. And that includes people. I mean, the thing is, I've been accused of being a bully plenty of times. And some of those times have been fair, and some of those times have not been fair. The thing is, I actually have a community standards violation strike that will never go away. It's a warning for bullying CS Joseph. So YouTube would agree with you, the Panther, that I have been known to bully. But the thing is, I think in no conventional way would I be called a bully. I don't go after or take any pleasure in beating up on the weak. I'm sort of the person who bullies bullies, I guess you would say. A narcissist run in terror of me. I've seen it on multiple occasions. Once I've identified somebody's a narcissist, or it's like even before I have, they can smell me coming, and my intolerance for their bullshit and my willingness to hold them to account for it openly, verbally, right now in front of everybody, they can smell it. And they just run from me like crazy. Oh, Broccoli Todd. Now you're just being provocative. INTJ and INFJ compatibility. I think they're pretty compatible, but ultimately they each have each other's tool as their polar, so it's going to cause problems. It's like your tool function is going to keep not working, and it's going to be very frustrating after a while. If ESTJs don't bully, why does CS Joseph exist? I don't think of CS Joseph as a bully. I really don't. I think of him as, a grifter, basically. But I don't even think he's really a grifter. Grifting involves some cleverness. I think he's, and PDB, I just heard about that for the first time earlier. I asked what it was, and somebody said it's some sort of database, personality database. So, harassing people? I mean, what does that mean? Harassing is such a dumb word. I don't like it at all, because just about anything can be called harassment. It's like, if I'm upset because you stole this parking space that I was waiting for, let's say, and you get out of the car and it's like, hey, I was clearly waiting here and you swooped in. That's complete bullshit. What the hell are you thinking? And it's a certain kind of person to go, you're making me feel threatened right now. I'm feeling harassed. It's like, fuck off, be accountable, right? I don't like that element. I don't like those words that are so easily misused and abused by FI people. I remember I one time laid into the landlord who was the landlord, not of us, but of the people next door when I lived in Laverne. And he had filled the house with the people I refer to as the basuras, who are these incredibly trashy, incredibly loud, awful human beings. And the landlord, though, was an ENFP, and I guess he thought he was doing some sort of social justice work by moving the ghetto into the nice suburbs. But I fucking laid into him, and he tried to argue with me a little bit. After I went up to him, I said, meow, meow. I paused for a second, and I turned around and walked away. I said, he's like, hey, be a man. Don't just turn around and walk away. I'm like, I spun right back around. I was doing you a favor, man. Now, I voiced what I needed to voice. If you want to push back about it at all, you're going to find yourself with a fistful of problems, because you're in the wrong here and you need to hear what I'm saying. Well, yeah. How the fuck do you say I don't know? I'm the only one who would know, because I actually live next door to these awful human beings. And, and then he sent a message later on. Next time, if I do that again, he's going to call the police. For what? Telling you the truth in public, you shithead? Is speaking the truth in public now harassment or something? That's why I hate those fucking things, like harassment or feeling threatened. It's like, fuck off. Threatening is something that's a real thing. I have either threatened you, which is to say made verbal threats, or I have not. My manner or tone is not capable of making you feel threatened, okay? Threats are actual things. They're not just feelings that you have. Talk about the future of typology. I mean, here's the thing. The future of typology lies in the growing pile of actual typing sessions that are consistently done the same way. Here I'm talking with famous people. In other words, there's a growing and large pile of data of a bunch of different people being asked the same kinds of questions, which allows us, if somebody were to be so inclined, to do some real like data analysis without having to do any data gathering, because the data gathering has already been done, right? Now, it's not perfect data gathering in the sense that I'm not asking exactly the same questions, but you could definitely, for certain kinds of TI questions, SI questions, whatever, you could determine specifics that qualify as a given slot. If you were to very carefully go through a bunch of these videos, look at a bunch of SIs from different types and stuff, even if you were to toss aside the type thing first and just taxonomy the data, you'd say, okay, well, the SI kinds of responses, the SI questions fall into categories meow, 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 right? And they'd be pretty you'd get to see some clear bands, so to speak. You'd see that you're not really looking at a smooth spectrum at all, but rather a banded spectrum. And that would go a long way in saying, all right, these are legitimately, these skills at least seem to fall into sets of, it's not a bell curve, in other words, right? If you see a bell curve, then you know the skill is not related to attentional manners. Now, you might see a banded bell curve, but if cognitive functions are right, you can do a lot of predictions about what the data curves and stuff are going to look like going in before anybody does the data analysis, and test those hypotheses and falsify or not. So it's like, if cognitive functions are correct, you're going to see more people who score near the top of the bell curve. It won't be a bell curve, right? It'd be a non-bell curve, but you'll see more people who score near the top when it comes to SI skills. And then you do people who score near the top with TI skills. So, and why? Because there are more sensors and feelers in general than there are TI types. So in other words, TI is TI is only going to display top level skill, quote unquote, in the 1-2. Whereas SI is going to display potentially top level skill in the 1, 2, 3, 4, even 5. And the reason for that is because it's a knowledge function. And when you're testing somebody's knowledge function, you're saying, use this, you be the subject here. Demonstrate for me your what you know about your own experiences and stuff. And so it's like, who's going to most quickly memorize a song? Probably INTP. In the third slot, SI. And it shows you how the knowledge function, therefore, is a little bit more diverse of a function than a deliberation function. And the way that we can test it will show people that it is the ways that we test it is more easily and precisely tested when it comes to relationship of memories of language stuff than it is of memories of non-language stuff, because you can't really express to me without language that you remember a smell or something, right? So we should see that. We should see a substantial number of people who I mean, of course, the problem is I don't get a random splay of people, right? So I get a lot more INFJs and ISFPs than I do anything else. So that's part of the challenge. But I have had plenty of other types that I've typed. Give an example of TI skills. It's just things like deductive reasoning problems. You know, if only potatoes grow under the ground, and some things that grow under the ground are carrots, is it necessarily the case that some potatoes are carrots? Like that kind of question is a TI skill. Hi, Winston's mom. Well, I was just saying that using ear to mean un is specific to words that start with R. And that in and of itself is irregular. It would be more regular if it were unregular. Adrian B says, I can't remember words to songs no matter how many times I heard, with the exception of a few. So here's the thing about me and words with songs is I remember words to songs that I learned when I was a kid or a teenager really well. I can remember all those words. Hi, Carissa G. But I'm much less good about remembering words of songs that I've learned more recently, unless I play it. So I've memorized all the words to White Boy by Merle Haggard because I've played it as a cover so many times. But what I would note is when I was working with Spacey and he was singing my songs, he would learn them so quickly. It was absolutely astonishing. He'd learn the melody and the words incredibly quickly, even if it was a complex melody and complicated words. He'd practice it a couple of times and learn it. And this is part of why they have SE Polar as well, is he hated practicing. Once he thought he got it, basically, he knew what the words were and the melody was, he didn't think there was any reason to practice. That's countervalued NI. There's no real sense of trying to get it more perfect because you've got all the reducible elements of it mastered to your satisfaction. Let's say you remember all the words and you're not pitchy at all. You got all the melody just right, all the intervals right. Of course, INFJs are the opposite. They don't feel comfortable performing it or trying to do it until they practice it a bunch. They really like to practice it a bunch. Is MBTI real? Oh yeah, it's real. It's realer than the realest reality show you've really ever reeled in on your reel. So, I mean, that's the thing about the future of typology is legitimacy stems from incontrovertible data shit, right? It's like, the thing is, if we can establish the right kinds of data displays, for lack of a better term, you can ask questions. So what explanation is this for this band? What explanation is there in psychology for this banded spectrum of results and the correlations between these skills and values as demonstrated in this large pile of data that's been parsed through carefully? At that point, then psychology is forced to try to defend Big Five by using it to explain something the Big Five can't possibly explain. And that's where you get the general psychology community to acknowledge that there's something here that needs to be explained better than it currently is. Because all of the existing explanations are reductive, expressive of the theorizer's biases, etc. Normative, lots of problems. And or, either based purely in behaviorism, or they're based, in a mechanicless understanding of self as a possessor of attributes. Well, you're just not very conscientious. It just sucks to be you. Turns out there just aren't very many of us who really are good. Most of us kind of suck. That's psychology's existing explanation of of personality. Psychology's existing understanding of personality can be summed up as IQ, Big Five, and disorders derived from trauma. So psychology is pretty good at explaining attachment disorders, for example. Why is that person so fucked up? It's pretty good at explaining that in most of the time. What's wrong with that person if there genuinely is something wrong with the person? The problem is it's so good at correctly determining what's wrong with the person that it also incorrectly has a lot of false positives. There's something wrong with this person because they deviate from a norm is very different than there's something wrong with the person because they're not sound in their relationships. Somebody who has experienced a lot of trauma as a kid and or not been able to trust adults to really love them and take care of them and stuff like that, they end up with some kind of attachment disorder, and they end up taking out all of that anger and unresolved childhood pain on the people in their lives that they're closest to. So this is an example of something where there's genuinely something wrong with the person because you can articulate specific harms to undeserving victims. It's very different than ADHD or autism spectrum without any retardation. It's like those things are just pathologizing stack is all it is. It's pathologizing being an action type. That's what ADHD is. It's pathologizing epipolar. That's what autism spectrum disorder is. But of course, each of those is a normal configuration of human being. There's nothing wrong with those people just because they're that configuration. And that's something psychology has no metaframe to deal with. They can't decide what really qualifies as a disorder versus what qualifies as an acceptable manner of being within the normal range of human being. And the real answer to that should be, who is the one who is suffering for being the way that they are? If it's the person themselves, then you better make damn sure they're actually suffering from that. Don't try to impose that upon them because they're failing to meet your criteria for success. Just because some kids doing badly in school doesn't mean they should be on speed. It doesn't mean they have ADHD. It mostly just means that schools and oppressive holocaust of rights violations. that prevents people from being as they would like to be, and thus imposes upon them an ontology that doesn't fit, and thus they are uncomfortable in their situation. It would be ill-advised to pathologize those people. It would instead be correct to condemn the industry of childhood destruction that we call school. Deviate from the norm. How's Lilu? Is he still in the tank? Yes, he's happy now. I think, you know what? I think it really was as simple as I wasn't keeping the water clean enough. Even though I thought I was cycling water in and out pretty often. I think I needed to change the filters, and I hadn't changed filters since I bought the setup originally, which is probably, I don't know how long ago, a long time ago. And the water was starting to smell kind of fishy. I think that's why he tries to climb out, is when he doesn't like the quality of the water. That's one hypothesis we read online, and I like that one because at least it gives me control over circumstance, and it makes me at fault if he does. Because I can stay on top of the water. That's not a big deal. I bought new filters. I'm going to leave the existing ones in for a few more days, and then I'm going to pull them and put another set of new filters in, because these ones have cleaned up a lot of the accumulated gunk. So, I mean, one of the mottos of this channel is there's nothing wrong with you. And that is directed towards everybody who's been inaccurately pathologized or gaslit, either by well-intentioned family members who just don't get it, or by well-intentioned professionals who just don't get it, or by ill-intentioned people who should really get it better, whether the thing is, there is something wrong with some people. So if somebody has an attachment disorder, then that means that there's something wrong with them. They can't have a healthy, intimate relationship, because a healthy, intimate relationship involves an exchange of power, a willingness to trust, and a willingness to trust even when you've been disappointed by somebody. So let's say a partner does mildly violate trust in some fashion. Like, for example, says they're going to bring home milk on their way home from work, but forgets to stop and get it. Shows up with no milk. Well, it's something of a trust undermining thing, because after all, the person said, oh yeah, I'll get milk on the way home. But on the other hand, following through on saying something you're going to do is not really required. It ought to get afforded a lot less trust than your claims about something that have been done. You can't lie when you say, yeah, I'll stop and get milk on the way home, unless you know when you're saying it, and that you definitely know at that moment that you are not going to do it. And for a lot of us, we really believe that we're going to go stop at the store on the way home to get milk, and then just face out about it, whether or not we have, how much obligation we have to set up phone reminders for ourselves and other things to make sure we don't forget. Well, that's going to depend a lot on what the expectations of the people around us are, in terms of how much slack we get on that kind of shit. The thing is, there's no such thing as a socionics type or an MBTI type or a Eric type or a Chase type or whatever. We're all talking about the same thing. So socionics, my cognitive function stack is extroverted intuition, then introverted thinking, then extroverted feeling, then introverted sensing. And that is the case in any and every typology system, no matter what. Now, other systems may say, oh no, Eric, you're not that. You're meow, 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 meow. It's not because they're defining the functions differently. It's because they're wrong. And it's important to remember that there's one exclusive correct explanation, and those that deviate from that are incorrect. That's what makes typology not astrology. If it weren't like that, it would be like astrology. Then it doesn't matter. Anybody's interpretation is equally good. Whether you think that having Mars in your fourth house makes you more likely to be angry or more likely to pout, well, I mean, they're equally valid interpretations. I mean, the Panther typology is about how people pay attention. And the fact that attentional manners necessarily have relationships with one another beyond concurrence. So, in other words, the relationship between one function and another might be inversely proportional, such that the more you have of one, the less you have of another. It's those relationships between perspectives and attentional manners, and the relationship between what it necessarily, unavoidably means to pay attention by a one way is to not pay attention by another way. To habitually do so is to be a type. So, to the extent that socionics is about meh, MBTI is about meh, okay, well then both of those are doing it wrong, because typology is about how people pay attention. And it's about the fact that attentional manners have these mechanical relationships that preclude it from being possible for there to be infinite combinations. In fact, it limits it to just exactly 16 combinations, and they are distinct in predictable, describable, measurable, testable ways. And we can do that in multiple fashions, but we're definitely talking about the same thing. So when other systems, quote unquote, disagree with my system, quote unquote, it's not about systems. There's one correct explanation. Okay, Cloud, just stop. Or are you just pretending to be Dave? Are you just clowning on Dave? Fine. If you mean that seriously, then just stop. I tell you what makes Dave and Chan so objective. It's the fact that they both agree with each other so much. I mean, look. You look at the theory of relativity, and you realize that that's a perfect example. It's exactly the same sort of thing as Jung's cognitive function notion. Except, unlike Jung, Einstein got the whole thing right in the outset. Jung didn't. But that's okay. I know, it's astonishing. It's astonishing. Yeah, it's like with relativity, there were certain things that were necessarily implied by the fact that there's an observer involved in any time equation. And it were those philosophical realities that gave birth to Einstein's mathematical equation that represents relativity, because he was somebody who thought in that symbolic language a lot. So naturally, he converted the ideational realities into math. Now, when you do that, if you're explaining something and your equation meaningfully becomes a tool of understanding that other math and science people use, then your legitimacy is demonstrated by the utility of it. So the thing is, it's easy to think that that's a good way to demonstrate the utility, to demonstrate the legitimacy of something, but it's not in general. What determines the legitimacy of something in this instance is right. Yeah, I know the Panther. So when you're talking about philosophy, one of the things about it is that its primary limitation is the lack of a metaframe. In other words, philosophy doesn't explain ever, and it's tripped up shit tons of philosophers. It doesn't tend to ever explain why the philosopher is philosophizing and why these other people don't care. But that's really the core question. If we don't have that question answered, then you are trying to put your philosophy above your humanity. And that will never work. You're trying to make yourself, you're saying, these ideas did not emerge from me, are not of me, do not represent expression by me, but simply sprang into being from nowhere. And that's just not the case. People are responsible for creating their own ideas when they do. So, philosophers then need to say, okay, I need to have an understanding of the human being and the human experience that explains me as well as it does anybody else, that explains people as well as makes claims about objects of analysis. So what you hear a lot from idiots is philosophizing about things like the existence of stuff and whether or not there's any real morality or if it's always relative. I hear people argue cultural relativism a lot now. It seems. I encountered somebody the other day who was basically a cultural relativist and was visibly upset in some fashion when I positioned a situation that required him to sort of take a moral stance that would invalidate another culture's legitimacy or something, right? So there definitely are behaviors that are illegitimate no matter what your fucking culture says. Your culture may approve of it, it's still immoral for you to do. And some people will say, well, according to whom? I mean, that's just according to you imposing your views on other people. No, it's my imposing justice on everybody, including myself. And I'm defining it in a way that makes good sense. I'm explaining why it's universal. And I'm explaining why the thing you're proclaiming is moral is not universal. It's well warranted, well justified, and makes the most logical sense. So that's not me imposing my views on people. That's me insisting others behave as civil human beings. Yeah. What does history have to do with ideas? Well, the thing is, ideas do evolve, unlike species. Ideas definitely do evolve, and human understanding evolves over time. So what happens is we have a succession of wrong explanations until one doesn't change for a very, very long time. And we go, I guess that one is right after all. So it's like, in other words, if instead of being wrong, a deviation from an idea happens within a different frame, then it's basically proven. So if you look at three kinds of physics, you've got Newtonian physics, you've got Einsteinian physics, and you've got quantum physics. So each is correct in its own frame, and none is correct in any of the other frames. So those are correct explanations, because where they get falsified, quote unquote, marks the boundary of a new frame. The same thing is true with psychology explanations. So if you look at one psychology explanation that's clearly correct, you're talking about the psychology explanation for attachment disorders and how the inability to learn trust in a healthy, loving environment as a child basically stunts a BPD suffers ontological growth such that they cannot have successful adult intimate relationships because they're constantly trying to, well, it's like I wasn't loved right as a child, so you need to love me unconditionally like you would love a child, even though I'm an adult and you can't possibly do that. And even if you try to do that, it won't satisfy me because I'm emotionally still a child. And I still believe you're going to betray me like my parents did. And I, therefore, am going to push you away until I confirm that hypothesis of mine. And of course, this isn't a good segue to point out that that's why the prime directive is what it is. What's the prime directive? The prime directive of all people is to have the map match the territory. Now, people do this in varying ways. So one way that you can have the map match the territory is only map out things that you can see. That's like kind of an ESTJ approach. So the map typically matches the territory because they're only mapping out things that they can see and actually plan and do. They're planning to go get their real ID at the Palm Desert DMV because it's so much easier down there. And they follow through on the steps of gathering all the appropriate documents and then go down and do it and blah, 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 right? They're just not dealing with anything that's difficult to map. So their maps and territories don't ever conflict with each other. But they're left with this hollow sense of a lack of eternal truth in their life because they're unipolar, ESTJs. Like my dad, he periodically will talk about this end of life thing and then sort of get somewhere where he goes, and then I guess, I don't know, just ride off into the sunset. Or it's like he doesn't get how meaning rich an experience this is. And sometimes has a faint glimmer of understanding that he's not getting how meaning rich this experience is. So that's an example of somebody who deals with the map and territory deviation by only mapping shit that's very limited in scope, but that, ultimately it's a sacrifice of self. And for me, it's like, well, how do I deal with map territory deviation? I keep telling the territory what it is because I have a fair amount of experience with my words successfully changing the territory, especially other people and their perceptions, which is most of the territory that I'm concerned with, rather than the kind of territory that's more difficult to change. So it's like if I kept insisting that the ocean was to the north of me, not the mountains, then it would never change the mountains from being there. It would never go away and the ocean would never come. But if I keep telling people things like, you are Mia and I am Mia, at some point, people tend to start to behave in a reality they're told that exists. It's what I refer to as meaning smithing in a book I wrote one time. Right now, I am like I'm on subset pontificating. Sometimes I'm on with humor. Sometimes I'm on playing music. And sometimes I'm not. I'm off on all those things, obviously. But right now I'm on with my pontificating. Bobby's son, did I have a good birthday? I did have an excellent birthday. And it didn't occur to me until you just asked the question, really. But I did, actually. I had a good typing session, and then I took a nap. And then Delilah came over, and I got up, and me and Rachel and Delilah watched a little bit of anime and chatted and made some food. And also, I put some cement on the tree, which needed some cement on it. Yes, actually, it did. This is not just a crazy Eric Solutions by Eric bullshit thing. My avocado tree suffers from a peculiar kind of fungus that is not, it can kill the trees. It's not good for them at all. And it happens when there's a crack in the tree, or like a gap or a hole, like a going in part with a little bit of wounded tree that keeps getting wet. And then this thing will grow on it that we on the avocado tree. So I've been trying to cure this avocado tree of this since I moved here. And I spent a lot of time at first sort of scraping out all the crap in there and blowtorching it and stuff. Yeah, water causes it to rot. So, but it's not rot though. It's a particular fungus. It's I researched it a long time ago, and I remember it's not my birthday anymore. It's tomorrow already. So what I first did, I scraped it all out and everything, and then I packed in my own homemade kind of plaster, which I made out of ash from the barbecue and water and sand, I think. So something like that. It's just basically a homemade plaster. So I filled in the wound in the tree where this fungus had festered, because that wound happens to get hit by the sprinkler every night. And then I didn't see the fungus for a long time. It looked like, okay, I think I've suppressed it adequately, on the theory that if I don't give it any air, access to oxygen or water, that it'll die, right? Well, eventually it did begin to poke through the plaster. So I went to Home Depot the other day, and I got this cement that you can use inside of pools. Like, you mix it up to a fairly like mushy kind of squishy paste thing, kind of like putty erasers in consistency, and then you smear it on under the water in the pool, and it'll stop a leak or whatever. So I got that kind of cement, and today I mixed a bunch of it up and put it all over that whole area. Now, the thing is that's cool about this is, number one, that stuff's pretty caustic and toxic. And so if I just put it directly into the wound, I'd be worried about the tree's well-being. But I didn't dig out my old plaster. I just put it on top of it. So I think it's not going to poison the tree or anything. However, I think it's going to kill any kind of fungus underneath the underneath the cement is going to be killed by this. And I also think it's going to successfully prevent any water from getting into that area from the outside, because it's specifically this kind of water stopping cement. And I think that it's going to prevent oxygen from getting in, because I tried to smear it all around. Yeah, well, plaster is too porous, but this cement stuff that I put on there is not going to be too porous. And I do think that the plaster is thick enough that it's not going to, the cement's toxicity is not going to go through the plaster, if that's what you're talking about. It's like if I thought about digging out all the plaster and then putting the cement all the way up into the wound in the tree. But I thought, that actually might harm the tree because it's not good to put cement up in there. So I just left the existing plaster that I had and put over it this waterproofing cement. I think that will finish closing off. I think the reason the fungus is still there but very slowed from before is that it's mostly not getting any water down there. Just a little bit is getting through the plaster. And now with the cement on top of it, it should prevent it entirely without it going up against the actual like capillaries and stuff of the tree. The thing is, according to the internet, there's no cure to this. There exists no chemical that kills this thing. And they say the only thing you can do is if you catch it really early, you can dig it out and then make sure it stays dry for a long time, and you can kill it before it gets going. But that didn't happen with my tree. It was long there, and it's prevented the tree from fruiting, I think, for decades now, probably. So I feel pleased to have done that. I feel pleased to have put a lot of time into making sure the fish tank, the fish are happy, and the water is nice and clear and stuff. And I really enjoyed Delilah's company as always. And it was fun. She brought me a birthday present, and that's why that birthday present is why I am still up and live streaming right now. It's a sweet present. She knows her daddy. He has what he wants for his birthday. Aren't you 50 years old now? 50? Well, in human years, I'm 50. But I'm slow growing, okay? That's like 17, I think, in Eric years. I don't ever return anything. It's like, here, do extremely low paying, extremely unpleasant labor. Go to the store and return this shirt. No thanks. That doesn't sound fun to me. How long is it going to take me to go to the store? Like, go to the mall, go in there and say, I want to return this thing. What, did you buy it? No, it was a gift. And then I have to do all that shit and go back and, okay, here's your $14 or whatever. And you're just like, okay, why did I do this? Isn't life too fun to be doing this? I think it is. Unless I needed cigarettes really bad and was broke or something. Then it would make sense. But I don't dislike anything anyway. I really like the hat quite a bit. I was wearing it earlier. It looks really good. I wish it weren't branded inside as Indiana Jones, but which just like makes it just like, oh my God, what an INTJ move. Because it's a really cool looking hat. And it's also the case that I'm pretty confident if you didn't know that said inside that hat Indiana Jones, that most people aren't going to draw the connection. It doesn't really look exactly like Indiana Jones's hat. It looks more like a cowboy hat kind of. And I really like it a lot. But because it says Indiana Jones inside of it, that inherently makes it somehow not cool enough for me. But also, because it only says it inside it, and I can reliably anticipate nobody's going to see it, it is still definitely cool enough for me because I think it's an excellent hat. And that's what it means to be an ENTP. It's like, oh no, this has the wrong frame. But Eric, it's a hat. Who cares what its frame is? Nobody's gonna think about what its frame is. It's just a hat. It looks good. Yeah, but now it's like branded, associated with this movie, and that's dorky. Then I said to myself, on the other hand, nobody's going to know this. And then it occurred to me, what I really want to do, I want to wear that hat and also a t-shirt that says, all hat, no cattle. Which I think would be funny. I'll wear this hat, and I'll say, and I have a shirt that says all hat, no cattle. Then nobody would think of this as an Indiana Jones hat at all. They just think of it as a cowboy hat, you know? I mean, I really like it. I'm not. It's a little bit more country in my styling than I'm accustomed to, but I think it looks great on me. Actually, I think I really like it. I mean, if somebody were to say, "Is that Crocodile Dundee hat?" I'd say, "No, it's actually an Indiana Jones hat." Because I'm super into Indiana Jones. No, Geiger, you don't get how to be cool at all. You clearly are not understanding how to be cool. Let me explain how to be cool. So, if you're going to get something associated with something, let's say, let's just imagine you're going to get something associated with something. This will be very instructive on how to be cool, okay? Where's that t-shirt he was wearing? Let's see. Maybe it wasn't Blue Exorcist. Maybe it was a different one. Oh, maybe it was, what was that show? I think it was Blue Exorcist, though. Appearance. Well, Rachel said which one times you found it. I can't even find what this shirt looks like now. What was the other one that was like Blue Exorcist that I liked a lot too? I don't know. I want to see more images of blue exorcist characters. Images. See, none of them are wearing that thing in that one. What about in this one? I didn't think of a different show. I must be thinking of a different show. Which one was it, though? Shows like Blue Exorcist. Oh, yeah, this shirt. Okay. Now, this is a cool shirt to get. Okay. Let me put this up. This is a good shirt to get. Why is this a good shirt to get? I'll tell you. This shirt is a good shirt to get because it says thank you 39 on it. And that's all it says on it. Hopefully there's nothing on the back. And that particular one, thank you 39, looks just like the one in the show. So if you see this, here's a picture of him wearing it in the show. All right, and I put that in the chat. Now, if I'm wearing that shirt, that's a cool shirt. It's referencing something, but it's a cool shirt because only people who are very familiar with Blue Exorcist will know what that shirt's about. And Blue Exorcist is sufficiently obscure thing to make that an incredibly cool shirt. Plus, it doesn't say anything like Blue Exorcist. The people who don't know the show don't know what it's about at all. That's how to be cool, you see. If you wear a Indiana Jones hat that said, if it said Indiana Jones on the outside of it somewhere, I couldn't possibly wear it because then it's completely subsumed by the fact that you've purchased this this hat at like Universal Studios or something. I would say something that goes with brown, obviously. Maybe brown? I'm not sure. Now the thing is, another way to be cool is to have this hat with a shirt that says "All hat, no cattle," because you're obviating any chance of critique on that level at that point. Also being funny, and I don't know, it's just a funny idea. So you can be original cool like that. You can be reference cool, like, this is a cool shirt. Excuse me, Kitty, I'm sorry. The only problem with this shirt is it's not cool with the right people. Cool shirts are cool with young people, mostly, usually. This is a cool shirt for Gen Xers only, though. You got to be over 40 and under 60 to really appreciate this shirt. Maybe you could be up to 70. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not sure. These were going on for a long time until they stopped. No, that wouldn't work. That wouldn't work. Where do I shop? I don't shop. I don't know where all my clothes came from, really. I'm not sure where the shirt came from. Probably one of my previous significant others bought it for me. That's where most of my clothes came from. Is like mostly Candace. Probably still majority Candace bought clothes. The rest of them probably Kimberly bought them. Like tan on brown or yellow on brown or white on brown. Something kind of brownish. Are you really gonna go with this shirt? That's awesome with this one. That's gonna be so cool. I'll totally walk around with this hat and this shirt on. People will go, "Hey, look at you being clever." And I'll say, "Yep, that's me. Always with the cleverishness." These aren't stylish. I mean, I'm stylish when I feel like being stylish. But the other thing is, I'm stylish enough to know what's cool for a 50-year-old still, and which is ridiculous. So I'm not gonna go too young, but I will definitely wear that 39 thank you shirt, because the fact that I'm 50 makes that doubly cool, actually, because I'm in an area where there's a lot of Asians, and a lot of people who watch anime, and it's like basically nobody. The idea of somebody my age wearing that, they probably would conclude that I must not know what I'm wearing. And in the ideal scenario, they come up to me and they say, do you know what that shirt's from? And I say, ssuartscire. You know what ssuartscire means in Japanese? It means I get it, I understand, I know. Basically, I'm grokking. I'm vibing with your vibe. I'm jostling your undercarriage and wiggling your waggle. I'm waddling your coot and coodling your waddle. Yep. Best be getting out to the west side of the ranch there, youngin. Be fixing them fences over there. You got to be fixing them fences on the west side of the ranch there, youngin. Here, pick the old mare, lead her down behind the stallion. Don't let them get fussy now. All right? Don't forget to water them cattle in the East Fork. We got bandits coming through the canyons in the west. Watch out for them. Don't forget your shotgun. Oh, also, look out for wolves eating our sheeps. We've been having a lot of sheeps go missing with corresponding wolf prints around. All right? Sure thing, boss. Man. I'm XL. I'm XL. Double X is a little bit moo-mooey on me. I mean, if it's 100% cotton unshrunk, then maybe double XL. If it's one of those shrink to fit kind of shirts where you got to jump in the pool, white one seems like Eric, but I'm entirely sure white is a good color. I'm entirely sure white is a good color for low SI people. Oh, because you spill shit on it all the time. Yeah, you got a point there, but I like the idea of it being brown because then it matches the hat. When in doubt, if you're trying to match colors, remember the easiest way to match colors is to just pick the same color. That's a secret that they don't tell you at color matching school. Girls don't tell you that. You have to figure that one out on yourself. You have to say, you know what? I know how to match. Just put everything brown. Then there's no chance it's going to be clashing because I don't want to hear about it, you know? Really? Wow, Winston's mom, thanks. That combined with this hat, you have just constructed an extremely cool outfit for me in record time. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. You're a wonderful human being. See, that's what I'm talking about, map and territory. Remember, it's like I'm talking about this future territory that's going to involve me having this shirt with this hat. Now, when am I actually going to go try to? It's like I'm thinking to myself, I'll probably have to go someplace and get a shirt made that says that. But obviously, it's a common enough saying. There's probably shirts out there that already say it. So once mom just Googles the shirts like that, and bada bing, bada boom. Well, I wasn't intending to encourage anybody to buy me that shirt. In no way, shape, or form was I trying to do any meaning smithing there. But that is one of the examples of how sometimes talking about stuff makes it happen for you magically like that. Without really having to do anything. Sometimes shit just, if you just talk about it enough, stuff will just happen. Thank you, Winston's mom. Oh, it's fun. It is fun. It's fun being. I'm happy right now. My mood is. I'm much more. I'm really trying to recognize how much my mood changes depending on where I am with, with amphetamines and stuff. It's like I should. I don't know. I'm so cheerful right now. I feel good. I feel at home, enjoying some live streaming after, not a lot of live streaming for quite a long time. Been pretty inactive for the last week or two. What makes my ISFJ subconscious an ISFJ subconscious? I mean, it is true that I find I'm able to be happiest when I'm attending well to my introverted sensing. So if I'm not lacking sleep, if I'm not hungry, if I'm not thirsty, I feel better, and I'm happier. That doesn't seem like anything like an ISFJ subconscious. It seems like an ENTP's relationship with SI, right? So where's this ISFJ subconscious come in? ISFJs aren't like that. They don't find their joy in attending to their own well-being. That's their default standard thing. They deviate from that to to enable their nature to make them joyful. In other words, for an ISFJ to be joyful, they need to not have more SI, they need to have more NE in order for their SI to stay fresh enough for them to be joyful. For me, it's the opposite. I need to have more SI because in order for my NE to be grounded enough for me to be joyful. So it is true that people need to incorporate some of their 4-slot function in order to be a healthy, optimally functioning version of themselves. And that to the extent that they're not a fully healthy or optimally functioning version of themselves, it probably links to problems with their fourth slot, at least to the extent that they're conscious of it. But I don't see why that makes anything, what that has to do with this ISFJ subconscious idea. It's a silly notion because it's a perfectly predictable ENTP relationship with SI. It's almost like saying that all elements of being an ENTP that aren't precisely emergent from extroverted intuition or introverted thinking are actually aspects of the self that are different types. But no, an ENTP has a definable relationship with each of the 8 functions. So it doesn't make any sense to say that. I don't understand these words. Your ESFP subconscious or your super ego. What the hell does that mean? Nobody's ever explained it to me. Nobody's ever given me an explanation I could find satisfactory. I have had a very big birthday. It doesn't make me particularly reflective, I've just discovered. 49, 50, I mean, for all of my 49th year, at no point during my 49th year did I believe myself to be 49, as far as I could tell. I don't know, like, when that happened or something, but I'm nowhere close to 50 years old. I mean, I can't possibly be anywhere close to 50 years old. In terms of, like, I need a lot more time in my 20s still before I get into my 30s. And what the hell? How am I 50 already? You know, I basically just am ignoring. You know, I don't feel like I'm 50 years old, so I'm not 50 years old. I do note some changes, like my constitution is generally a little bit less robust. I can handle partying hard less well, so to speak. I need to be more attention to my SI now than I used to be. And I can, I can tell when I'm not getting enough exercise. Like, I need to get up and walk around some. I have to pee a lot more often than I used to. But it's like I finally got good at being, maybe 32. I got pretty good at it. And that's sort of like me achieving a more polished display rather than really feeling like I'm 32. It's like me successfully presenting my 22-year-old self as 32. I feel in a lot of ways similar in age to Delilah. Yeah, I can't back. The thing is, once you quit drinking, all of the impacts on your body are much minimized. Alcohol is like the hardest thing on your body. So once you quit drinking, you feel a lot less of that. Oh shit, I can't handle this anymore. Because other things don't rack you out quite so hardcore. But things like amphetamines do leave you pretty tore up after if you don't manage it very carefully. And what tends to happen is, even if you're trying to manage it carefully, like we went to Laughlin and I had a couple long drives and I had to, kind of double down to stay both up and like in a good vacation mood and also do all the driving and everything. And so it meant when I got back, I was tapped out. You know, the diminishing returns are greater as well now than they used to be. So it runs out of effectiveness sooner, kind of. It's an ongoing project for me, managing that and deciding how much I want to incorporate it in my life. Because the thing is, once I get away from it for about a week or so, a solid week without any amphetamines and lots of sleeping, then I get kind of naturally ADHD again and kind of hyper and fairly joyful. But I end up taking a lot of naps. It's but it may ultimately be that because amphetamines run afoul SI in predictable ways, and that I can't seem to compensate consistently for those SI impacts, that ultimately I will never be at my optimal until I mostly eliminate doing speed. Because in that understanding of things, I'm most effective when I'm operant via an SI frame of reference with days. That is to say, to try to think more like, okay, I know what I'm going to do today, maybe tomorrow, and to be less engaged in tasks and projects and stuff that are too big in scope. But even those, I think I'm be more successful in limiting the scope of them and in executing some complete, if perhaps imperfect or somewhat less realized, perhaps version of something. But sometimes that's better. So it's like it's a very much it's a head shaker for me, because one thing I'll say for sure is that there's a certain magical connection with music that happens when I'm at the beginning of a bottle, where it feels so good to play music and so satisfying that I would hate to give that up, But of course, I could manage things differently. I could go 3 or 4 days on, then like a week off or something. But it's a challenging thing, is what it is. 3-way catch-up. Are you still using regular one-way catch-up? Time to triple your game. Step up to 3-way catch-up. For catch-bean, saucing, and dipping purposes. Catch-a-bean. Catch-a-bean is a verb. Aren't you going to catch up that? I'm catch-bean right now, dude. What are you talking about? Dude, that's not catch-a-bean. That's just like dainty dipping or something. I'm not dipping, I'm saucing at least. Well, you're not catch-a-bean. These are the arguments people have when they employ 3-way catch-up. Eric's patented 3-way catch-up. Now use catch-up in 3 ways. Yes, 3-way catch-up. Everybody's favorite kind of catch-up. We have teen shaming commercials, such as the really cool kids are sitting at one table at the lunch, and they're talking shit about the dorky kid. Can you believe Brian? Look, it's not his fault. I just feel bad for him. One-way catch-up is so 2020. Right? High five, bro. Don't be like Brian. It's time to do your catch-up 3 ways. Well, thanks, advertising man, for sharing your wisdom with me. I appreciate that. That's a letter to the editor for a local teen regarding my shame-driven advertising campaign. If you're not using 3-way catch-up, you should be ashamed of yourself. Deeply, profoundly ashamed. Deeply and profoundly? Yes. Both. To be regally ashamed. I don't normally associate shame with regality, though. Well, it's time to change your perceptions, bro. You're close-minded. That's why. Okay. If you say so. I do say so. I say so all the time. Do you really say so all the time? Yes, I do. All right, here we go. Brooding here won't do any good, but brooding's more and more my style. I seek the cheery ways of standing where we stood, 'cause I've been stuck here a while. That's despite a natural selfishness that makes it easy to have fun. The flutters in the gut become a fist as all my visions come undone. I tried to stream, distract, and dream the afternoon away, but heavy new realities are breaking every day, and for a bit I am out of it. Reasons still unsaid, till I need get out of me what's inside my head. It seems like everybody's so sensitive and ready to just get mad. I seek the civil ways of living like a kid, 'cause who wants to be the dad? Have we lost our sense of scope and scale, our capacity to laugh, the sense to know when not to wail, and how to tip the golden calf? I tried to stream, distract, and dream the afternoon away, but heavy new realities bear down on every day, and for a bit I am out of it. Reasons still unsaid, but till I need get out of me what's inside my head. And still I'm sad, so sad for me, sad for her unhappily, and what you call sorrow I call home. Blues that sink clear down to the bone, and so I'm sad, still I'm sad, so sad for me, so sad for her unhappily, and what you call sorrow I call home. Blues that sink clear down to the bone, and so I'm sad, still I'm sad, so sad for me, so sad for me, sad for her unhappily, unhappily, what you call sorrow I call home. Blues that sink clear down to the bone. Thank you, Winston's mom. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I appreciate it with my appreciating bone. Oh, he came here with her. And what's the big problem that you can't endure? You seem so sure it's not appropriate claiming to blame things on Scott. Despite getting caught, he's got you reframing for him, straining for him, going to the gym to make yourself good enough again. Yeah, you guys both have lots invested. That's not a reason to stay around. Through the years, you've both been tested. Time to move up, find higher ground. Oh, he came here with her. And what's the big problem that you can't endure? You seem so sure it's not appropriate claiming to blame things on Scott. Despite getting caught, he got you reframing for him, straining for him, going to the gym to make yourself good enough again. Be done with him. That's a good song. It makes me feel happy to have played it. Now I'm going to play this song that's typically difficult to sing because I feel like my voice is still pretty good right now. Sip the old poopaloop, as they call it in the Dominican Republic. Oh wait, that's not what they call it there. If Jesus was people but absent of sin, he must then have struggled with regular men and women, of course, when they too were present. Disciples all warily eyeing the lesson. If people were Jesus, they'd know as they think, and everyone's work would be true. And feelings once spoken would sit where they sink, and we'd all know just what to do. But people aren't Jesus once they're betrayed. The easy believing forever is lost. Maybe naivete is not to be saved, but the wise pay a terrible cost. Does virtue require a rational take? Or is virtue that's reasoned invariably fake? Does musing itself just distract from the flow? Or is care better served by deliberate and slow? People aren't Jesus once they're betrayed. The easy believing forever is lost. Maybe naivete is not to be saved, but the wise pay a terrible cost. The one you thought you'd be acts like you never have met. The act you made for two has faded into regret. There's no one unshaken, we all have been shook. But being forsaken don't mean you're forsook. And though in the past we've been hung out to dry, we'll find them at last if we're willing to try. 'Cause people aren't Jesus once they're betrayed. The easy believing forever is lost. Baby naivete is not to be saved. The wise pay a terrible cost. Yeah, baby naivete is not to be saved, but the wise pay a terrible cost. It's a little bit high for me in my pitch range. I have trouble singing it, but I sing it pretty well there. Too much noise in the dentistry, loud enough to disrupt everybody's dreams. Frustration means mistakes are made until it seems everybody's just throwing shade. I won't be another casualty of other people's well-intentioned rules. I used to think that some tomorrow there'd be time for yesterday. It's not the sort of thing that one can borrow. No one willing to lend a day. Your uncertainty's implicit, just like an unexpected visit from a bunch of men all dressed in blue suits. I won't be another casualty of other people's well-intentioned rules. I used to think that some tomorrow there'd be time for yesterday. That went okay. That song I always have trouble playing, but I'm pretty well that time. Let's see about a couple more of these. Why? Well, because I'm enjoying playing them mostly. It gives me pleasure and joy in my heart. Those are feelings that one has sometimes when one has emotional thoughts and feelings. When one has a heart full of blessings, one feels emotions in one's heart. That's what I'm feeling right now. That's a good thing to wonder, Winston's mom. Thanks for sticking around and listening to me play the guitar. Practice my songs. Thinking someday maybe they'll become popular. If I can play them well enough, maybe. 30,000 days. Too many expectations. Not even worth a damn. 30,000 nights to sleep off the intoxication. Otherwise, you won't escape the plans. Who can tell me my priorities? Is there anybody knows the key? 'Cause I'm tired of doing it wrong. I want direction and have all along. Wait until I know. Or is that just hesitation? Clarity's no good once your chance is gone. What I need to show is it so below my station. I'm tired of doing it wrong. I'm wasting half my days trying another's ways. Who can tell me my priorities? Is there anybody who knows the key? 'Cause I think I'm doing this wrong. 'Cause I think I'm doing this wrong. 'Cause I think I'm doing this wrong. Doing it wrong. No Winston's wrong because 100 years would be 36,500 days. Right? 100 times 365 is 36,500. So 30,000 days is less than 210 years. Oh, I'm sorry. I had your thing blocked. So it's just I had part of your message blocked with this thing, these words and stuff I have in front of me. And I just saw the 210 part. I thought you said 30,000 days equals 210 years. No, you said equals 82.137210 years. My bad. Yes, that's probably correct. It's about a full lifetime for a lot of people. Not for me, of course. I plan to live a lot longer than 30,000 days. I plan to live at least 30,001 days. Hopefully more. When I was younger, it seemed that everything gleamed. I don't know what happened to me, but I've lost that sense of urgency, and I don't think that I'll ever see it again. If you follow my lead, you'll discover I'm loster than you. And you'll want to know the way to get back at you. Wherever it was you thought you knew. And tomorrow will be just like today. I'll be lost in too. It's a matter of mood as much as a matter of will. And the things I do and the direction I point to still seem a part of me, though departedly. And I wonder if I ever see them again. Well, that was nice. That was fine. I think I'm going to play now Gobby Weatherman. With all of my country heart and country soul, I'd like to express the truth of country gold in this original song, originally made by the original artist me, called Agave Weather Man. Yes, Agave Weather Man. Now, it is true that one line of these lyrics in this song comprises a quotation of a famous piece of literature. Can you tell me, not really literature, can you tell me, after hearing the song, which is the line of the song that comprises a quotation of a famous piece of writing? We'll see if anybody can determine that as soon as we are done playing this song entitled Agave Weather Man. Man of weather, man of truth, man of wisdom, man named Ruth. These are the words I'm saying to you now, and with good cause, with very good cause indeed. I say these words to you now because I say what needs to be said when things that are unsaid need to be spoken aloud. The words, the power and the truth, the glory and the wisdom, the foreverness is the thing that is so impressive to me, is how forever everything is, from the beginning of time to the end of time. Okay, now I'm ready to begin playing. Filling space. Filling dead air with talking. You're living on a time frame I will never know. Alienation into humanity's soul. Imagine you a future after the collapse, returning to the urgency of isolated past. Picturing community free of metaphysics. You're hunting buffalo, picking red delicious. Your knowledge of the seasons and your wisdoms of old. Fires blazing in the night to keep away the cold. Hostility is kept at bay by what you think is in the way of life as children of the land. With an agave weatherman, imagining a history that never could have been. You lecture at the college, advancement is a sin. Lamenting disconnection and every corporate act, asserting all your feelings and ignoring all the facts. Hostility is kept at bay by what you think is in the way. What you think is in the way of life as children of the land. With an agave weatherman, you find modernity just so banal. Wish you were born any time but now, and your experience won't run afoul of exceptions you might allow. You visualize nobility sipping on some port, or tribes of peaceful savages in beautiful comport. But few of history's people ever thusly did cavort, 'cause life was solitary, nasty, brutish, poor, and short. Hostility is kept at bay. Hostility is kept at bay by what you think is in the way. What you think is in the way of life as children of the land. With an agave weatherman. With an agave weatherman. Thanks. That was Agave Weatherman by me. Next, I've got another song by me. Really, Eric? That's a lot of songs by you. Okay, I'll play a cover after I'm done with this song by me. I like to play it with my fingers and my voice. That's what I'm going to do right now for my own self-gratification. I find it extremely autoerotic. Sammy has a story that need be told. This is a song for an open road, and such a thing must always do its job. She married up Jeb and turned 19, 4 years in and 3 kids weaned. Weary now and questioning the past. Agency out, basic discretion, locking in our choruses, way too young. The urgency tempered is really just depression, making sure those underneath them always run. Doug at 20 thought bourbon fun, and likewise Doug at 21, and so forth, well up into middle age. But once that seemed to set him free became his whole identity. Now Doug's vowed another drunken rage. Agency out, basic discretion, locking in our courses, way too young. Your juicy tempered is really just depression. They'll offer give you incentive, but they haven't got a thing that's fun. Everybody panic about the kids. Lock 'em up with Excedrin. Mathematics to ensure success, or impose more unjust duress. Agency outpaces discretion. Locking in our courses way too young. Urgency conferred is really just depression. Making sure those underneath them always run. Without consent, it's really just oppression. By parasites surviving on their wages earned by lying. Well, they feed their fear of dying. Yeah, they feed upon the futures of the young. That was pretty good. What says I got the hat on? I might as well play this. Every life lived reaches a time when the road splits in two. There are times, dark times, times of despair, times when it's hard to feel good. That's when I look for my sack full of solvency and that satchel of helpful goods. Satchel of helpful goods. Satchel of helpful goods. Satchel of helpful goods. Every life lived reaches a time when the road reaches an end. When I'm there, will there be anybody else around? Will I travel all alone? That's when I look for my sack full of solvency and that satchel filled up with home. And that satchel, now nothing but bone. Satchel of helpful goods. 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 Pretty good. Not too bad. Pretty good. Okay, that's better than bad. Worse than great. What's the matter with Chad? Is he terribly bad? Is he very like Dan? Is he a terrible man? Is he sort of like Jill, who can't pay her bill? Or rather like Jack, too stuck on the facts? What's the matter with Sue? Will she know what to do if they bring attitude? Will she show ingenuity? We talk about you whenever we go walking. What's the matter with Bryn? Is she living in sin? She's been hanging with Jim. He's looking terribly thin. What's the deal with Frank stealing fish from my tank? He's colluding with you, and they're talking to Lou. What's wrong with the ladies? What's the matter with men? From the feelings of Katie to the coldness of Sven. They talk about you whenever we go walking. Paths that lead to lesser days. They'll fill up the overwatered past, and whoever's left, it's still okay. Just tie the sails to the mast. Are you angry at Ken or Neville again? Don't bother with Kev, he's practically dead. Just focus on Bert, he's medium hurt. What's the quantity for Liz? Did she fail a quiz? What's the matter with Drew? Will she know what to do if they bring attitude? Will she show ingenuity? She talks about you whenever she goes walking. Paths that lead to lesser days. They'll fill out the overwatered past, and whoever's left, it's still okay. Just tie the sails to the mast. 'Cause each of us have much engravely sent. Throw up the hands, stiffen the chin. Catastrophe looms heavy overhead again. Time's gone will never be again. That's about as fast as I ever play that song. Nevertheless, still played pretty clean. Cleaner than a filthy pile of vomit anyway. It really isn't saying that much, but still better than nothing, I guess. I got 2 more songs, man. I play Gerald and I'm play a cover. Gerald has a thought. Gerald has a lot. Gerald has a plot to get to Marjorie's tater tots. He's got a good idea for a name-changing business. Thinking now about what he'll call Christmas when they hire his firm to change that name. Gerald always thought there'd be chance enough to return to the work left off. He'd get back to it eventually, but his visions piled up and his plans would interrupt all the work that started off so hopefully. Now his mind is back on his business, thinking of changing factless to listless, so how all the people will shout his name. And Gerald knows he understands ever more clearly now. He won't provide explanation regarding the why or the how. He'll see you and know you from inside your heart. Exciting, delighting, Gerald plays his part. And Gerald still knew there's too much to do, and he dropped the time in the underview. Too much to do, but and where now and what? Too much time spent nitpicking this cue with you. Gerald has a thought. Gerald has a lot. Gerald has a plot to get to Marjorie's tasty spots. He's got a good idea for a name-changing business. Thinking now about what he'll call Christmas when they hire his firm to change that name. Gerald has a thought. Okay, last song is coming up next as a cover. Kind of an ironic cover because I'm fluidly transracial, and this is a song about racial identity that some silly white guy wrote. Some silly racist white guy wrote. But it's a great song though. Some folk call me a rambling man, cause I do a lot of thumbing and a kicking cans, and I won't do an answer good to call me name. Cause my daddy wasn't well, it was, well, I wasn't born and raised in no ghetto, just a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. Yeah, I don't want no handout, living, don't want any part of anything they give, and I'm proud and white, and I got a song to sing. Well, I said a few things and I'll admit it. If I want to get ahead, you gotta hump and get it. Just a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. I'm gonna find me a wealthy woman in a line of work that don't take no diploma, cause I ain't got much to lose but lots to gain. You might call me a good time fella, but I ain't no black and I ain't no yellow. Just a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. But I don't want no handout, really don't want any part of anything they give it. I'm proud and white and I got a song to sing. I said a few things and I'll admit it. If you want to get ahead, you gotta hump and get it. So I go looking for a place to do my thing. Small town boy, been around a little, and I like guitar and I like the fiddle. That's the kind of soul to the fan, my flame. Fear down ready. I got to work just to be somebody. Just a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. Well, I don't want no handout, living, don't want any part of anything they give, and I'm proud of mine, and I got a song to sing. Well, I said a few things and I'll admit it. If you want to get ahead, you gotta hump and get it. Just a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. Yeah, I said a few things and I'll admit it. If you want to get ahead, you gotta hump and get it. Just a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. Yeah, I said a few things and I'll admit it. If you want to get ahead, you gotta hump and get it. Just a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. What a funny, great little country jamboree song that is, huh? Oh, good. I am so glad to know, Oliver Linehan, you are, transracial power, brother. Transracial power. Fluidly transracial power. I hope you're fluidly transracial. If your transraciality is not fluid, then you're a racist. Just to be clear on that, okay? That's true, Oliver Linehan. That's just how the oppressive patriarchy oppresses you with its logic. It's a good point. All right, good night, everybody. Sleep well, and don't forget to eat plenty of delicious whatever you want to